Hello all, welcome to Tacton's webinar on visualization. We're excited to have all of you joining us. We are looking forward to talking to you about how you can elevate and reimagine your sales by leveraging the top 4 visual configuration capabilities in combination with configure, price, and quote software today. So let's get started with the agenda for today. I'll first share a brief intro about Tacton and why visual configuration is key to industrial sales. My name is Sriram Ramadurai, and I'm the Vice President of Product Marketing at Tacton Systems, and I will be your host for today's session. Following the brief intro to Tacton, we'll bring in Marco Lang, our Global Product Manager for visual configuration, who'll touch upon the top 4 capabilities with some live demonstrations. So a little bit about Tacton for those who are not aware of us. We are a global software company headquartered in Sweden and Chicago. We also celebrated recently our 25th anniversary in 2023, and our primary focus is to help manufacturers transform their selling experience and help them simplify the sales of complex machinery and industrial equipment. Our flagship product is Tacton CPQ, which is an enterprise-level SaaS software product for configuration, pricing, and quoting solutions, and it's targeted towards the complex manufacturing sector. We're also proud to be recognized by many industry analysts, and most recently as a leader by Gartner in the 2022 Gartner Magic Quadrant for CPQ application suites. So when you look at Tacton CPQ, it is our core enterprise SaaS offering that manufacturers trust for their CPQ needs. But in addition to Tacton CPQ, we also have multiple add-ons or options that our customers leverage, like analytics for analyzing quotation data, CAD automation for generating engineering drawings, and visual configuration, which is what we're going to dive into today. There are some cool things you're going to see, from real-time 3D to augmented reality, and I'm excited about the capabilities that Marco is going to showcase later here. But why is Viz key to industrial product sales? So I'm going to share with you some stats from Gartner. When you look at visual configuration software revenue by industry sales, you'll find that manufacturing accounts for 41% of the sales of the software, and the overall software segment is growing fast, meaning that more of your industry is using visual configuration software. Secondly, when you look at how the visual configuration software is being used, you'll notice that 64% of the application is used for direct selling, followed by 26% using digital commerce. So visual configuration's use case is heavily tilted towards enhancing the selling experience of your products. Actually, according to Gartner, companies that implement visual configuration solutions see significant improvement in their deal win rate, lower cost for drafting design files, and less rework in the factory. So today's webinar focus is going to be on 4 key topics that Marco is going to talk about further. But how can visualization help in better preparing your sales team by increasing their overall understanding of the overall product portfolio that you have? How can visualization help in increasing the customer touch points with omni-channel sales? Then we're also going to be focusing on how can your customers, how can you increase the customers' knowledge of the product fit? And this is where we're going to introduce a new feature that we recently launched called layout planning, which is going to help you and your customers understand how your product or equipment fits in a 2D floor plan. And lastly, we're going to touch upon how you can help your sales teams and end customers' overall experience with visualization. So having said that, let me turn over to Marco and have him go through the capabilities. Marco, you there?
Yes, thank you, SR. So sharing my screen now. All right, so let's dive right into it. Top 4 visualization capabilities that I like to highlight today. And the first one I like to dive into is interactive 3D real-time. So based on the experience that we have in visual configuration, which is over 15 years now, we came to realize that the best way to support and visualize the configuration process of high variance products is using a visualization that is based on this technology, on interactive 3D real-time. So let me showcase or demonstrate that. So throughout the whole session, I will be using a couple of different demos. All of those demos are standard demos that we have. They are all working with fictitious companies. And the first demo that I'm like to use is of a company called EverCareTech. They are a medtech company, and they're providing medical equipment. So I'm now diving right into the CPQ front end. And I'm not going to explain all the details that you see here, but that's the environment where you manage all your accounts, opportunity solutions, and try to add products to the solution that you're configuring. So let me briefly add a new product to a solution that I like to propose to a customer. And the product that I'm now going to configure is this medical card here. So this is the configuration dialog. On the left side, you see the configuration UI. Not something special about it. You see steps, different pages, and fields you can click on. And on the right side, you see visualization. So now let's look at that term, interactive 3D real-time. Interactive means that the visualization, the viewpoint that you have on this product right now is not something that has been predefined by someone before, but it's something that the user can interactively change. So decide on their own from which angle, from which distance they like to look at the visualization. So that's the meaning of interactive. 3D means that the visualization is not based on static images, either one images or couple of images that you compose together. No, it's based on a 3D engine using 3D models of the product, putting them together and displaying them as a result. And the last part, real time, means that that 3D engine is producing those visualizations in real time. So a couple of times per second, this visualization here is refreshed, meaning it's able to immediately showcase and display configuration changes. So if I'm now going into the technical configuration of that card, and I'm now changing from a short to a tall card, this is immediately visualized. I'm changing to a white card, you can see it. I'm changing to a different color, you can see it. And I can turn it around and change the configurations from any angle, and it's just working and displaying everything right away. So that's the meaning of an interactive 3D real-time experience. And of course, this does not only work for medical cards. I brought a few other examples. So it works across all the industries, for any product type, for any product size, from millimeters to a couple of 100 meters. It works for single products or for systems of multiple products. And of course, it also works, or it's possible to present the products or the systems across the whole visual fidelity spectrum. So it might look like a CAD visualization, or you can start adding colors and textures, or you can go the full way around photorealism, so it looks like a real photograph. So we strongly believe that this technology is the way to go for if you're dealing with high variant product configuration. The second capability I like to look into is what we call omni-channel support. So the demo that I just provided here, this configuration, this configuration dialog is, sorry.
So before you jump into that and you take a swig of water there, I do have a question on the interactive 3D. So with an interactive 3D real-time viz, pretty much seems like you can visualize everything. Can you also use visualization in like all different sales channels?
Sure, exactly. So what I'm displaying here, this configuration dialog, it's currently embedded in our standard CPQ front end, so the native environment a sales rep would be working in. But of course, that configuration dialog could also be embedded, for example, in a CRM environment like Salesforce or Dynamics, which meaning that the configuration and the visualization is then running inside that channel. And those are examples for selling channels, but of course you could also think about more buying focused channels. So for example, if you like to hand over that configuration experience to your customers so they can configure the products or systems on their own, and after that request a proposal. So you can do that as well. And actually for this company, EverCareTech, we have a demo of that as well. So this here is some kind of a self-service experience, which could be embedded in an e-commerce strategy or a web shop. So you see a completely custom-built UI front end here, which is in the back end connected via APIs to our configurator. And we can also very easily embed the configuration experience into that as well. So the visualization,
for example, if I was trying to run or get into e-commerce more and expose my product on my website or things, then we should be able to do that. That's what this is showcasing here, correct?
Exactly. So the same visualization component can be used in different channel or configuration scenarios, can be used in that, you mentioned that before, in that direct sales channel, but it can also be used in the digital commerce channels, like creating a web shop. Or another approach could be maybe you only like to create some kind of a demonstrator or teaser of a product, so not providing the full complexity of the configuration. I don't have an example for this fictitious company EverCareTech, but actually Tacton, we are exactly doing this on our own website. So if you go to tacton.com and then go to products visual configuration, on that page you find a lot of useful information about visual configuration, but you also find a small demo which you can just start. And this is only a teaser, teasing a demonstrator to showcase how interactive 3D visualization compared with a configurator can work, and you can experience that. And that's, as you can see here, that's a completely different experience, even more reduced. So the visualization can be embedded in a lot of different channels, and that is what I'm trying to say with this second capability, omnichannel support, that the visualization should be able to support you in all those different channels. The third one I like to go into or dive into a bit today, the third capability is context visualization. So maybe taking this example again. So most often the product that you're visualizing or the system is presented in front of a white canvas. And that's very useful in terms of that you can concentrate on the product and on the configuration itself. But especially if you're handing over that whole experience to users that are less experienced with the product and their capabilities and haven't seen it in reality, it's hard to imagine how this will fit into the context that you are going to use it. So the visualization should provide guidance for that. And a very simple and straightforward way is to add dimensions. So then you can get a better understanding how big, how tall, how wide this card actually is. And since we are using 3D real-time technology, that means if I'm now going to change the dimensions, the visualizations will adjust immediately. So that's a very easy way to provide a bit more context around the product that you're configuring. Another way of providing context would be if you are adding additional images or geometry around the product to get a better understanding which context that product can be used. So for example, maybe you are a doctor and you are interested in that product, putting that in your practice. So we could, for example, visualize that car in such a scenario, so you maybe feel a bit more confident that this is what you are expecting it to be. Or maybe you are selling it to hospitals, and then we can change the scenario, and someone who's looking at that visualization feels more confident, yes, this is something that fits into the context where I intend to use it.
Or could applications like if you have an industrial equipment and you want to see how it fits on a specific machine or something like that, or in a plant floor environment, that would be something for an individualized equipment as well. You should be able to see, right? I'm not talking about 2D floor planning and stuff, but just if you wanted to visualize that in its context.
Exactly. So the environment here is not directly related to your configuration model, so it's something that you can freely define in your visualization. In which context do you like to present the product configuration? And you can take that even one step further. So, I mean, so far we are seeing here a virtual representation of the product, but we could leverage technology like augmented reality to showcase and display that virtual product actually in the real environment. And I can demonstrate that as well. So let me quickly pair my phone so you can see it on the screen here. And what I can now do, we provide a small app, Tacton CPQ.AR, and I can now scan a QR code. And now I'm able to put that virtual representation of that card right in the meeting room where I'm currently sitting in. So now I can get closer to it. It's presented in its real dimension, so I can experience it live as it will be if I'm going to buy it. I can get closer to look at some details. I can go around it and so on. So this is another possibility to provide more context or add more context around the configuration I'm doing. I'm just putting it now here so I don't have to hold it in my hands. So that's another easy way to make it more tangible, the configuration that you're currently doing.
Yeah, no, for sure. That looks very exciting. I mean, I have a lot of questions around that, but maybe you'll keep it for the end there. So yeah, go ahead.
All right. And the last example around adding context to the visualization is what USR already gave a sneak peek in your introduction. So if you are configuring or if you are selling big products, big installations, or maybe systems consisting of multiple products, you have the issue that the configuration that you are selling of that system or product also need to fit into the spatial requirements and environments on the customer side. You need to take that into account when configuring, because there's no use if the configuration is valid, but it doesn't fit into the building of your customer. And today, this is mostly solved by including the engineering department very early in your sales process, so that customers can provide floor plans to engineering. Engineering is taking the CAD data of the product and systems, bringing everything together in their specific software systems like CAD systems, and trying to figure out if a certain configuration that sales is providing engineering as input will fit into that available space. That works, but it adds a few issues. One is that adding another party in the whole sales process make the sales process more complicated. You have more people involved, more handovers, more feedback loop. Everything takes longer. And of course, the whole process also gets more costly by involving more people. And especially in the early sales phase, where it's very crucial that you're very fast to responding to customer requests and input, and where you are still not certain if this will become a deal, so you're earning any money, it's important to be fast, it's important to be cost efficient. So exactly for that, we developed a new capability called layout planning, and I can quickly demonstrate that. So now jumping over to another fixtures company called Flexible Filling Systems. They are selling bottle filling lines. And what you can see here in the front end, we now have a new panel where you are now able to upload floor plans. So customers can now provide the floor plans to the sales rep directly. Sales rep can upload them. We support different file formats, images, PDFs, or DWG files. Then you need to prepare that floor plan a bit. And the most important thing is that you need to, oh, I'm logged out, so just restarting again. The most important thing that you need to do is you need to define the scaling of that floor plan. So we have a reference when we are putting it into the visualization, how big is that floor plan? So you need to identify 2 points on that floor plan, and you need to define, okay, how long is the distance between those points? You can also, if you want to, crop the layout plan a bit if you have some parts that you're not interested in, but that's basically what you need to do to prepare that floor plan, and you only have to do it once. And once it's prepared, you can now start using it in your configuration. So I'm now going to configure this filling system here. So again, the configuration dialog, we have a couple of guiding questions that we can answer. I'm not doing that yet, and I'm going straight into technical configuration. And I also have a little button here to cheat, because that is automatically populating me a system, so I don't have to do that manually at the moment. And what you see now on the right side in the visualization, this is what the visualization currently looks for that system. It's visualizing the individual components that are currently part of that system. But of course, the configuration as such has no information about how those components are actually positioned in space, how they are positioned in relation to each other, because that's not actually relevant for the configuration as such to be valid. But it's very valid and interesting for you to know if it will fit into your available space. So what we now did in this demonstration here, we just duplicated this step here, and we did 2 changes. One is we added a new panel, and that panel is now providing us access to the prepared floor plans. And the other change that we did is that this visualization is now running in layout mode. And that means that every visualization object that corresponds to a node of the system, it's now possible to move that in space. And of course, on a white canvas, that's not so interesting, but I can now add the prepared floor plan to the visualization. And now I can start arranging the components of my system on top of that floor plan, trying to understand and to identify if all those components of the system will fit into the available space. So that is really enabling sales rep very early in the sales phase to create a rough layout and a rough understanding if the configuration they are currently working on will fit into the available space on the customer side. That is not replacing engineering completely from the process, but it's postponing involvement of engineering to a later phase where I maybe have already more confidence that this will end up in a deal. And then I can include engineering to really finalize that layout plan, make a detailed layout plan, maybe precise to the last millimeters with their specific software. But that involvement can now happen way later in the process. That's the big benefit.
What about, like, I mean, in reality, from my experience working in manufacturing plants, that it's not going to be just the equipment. There's going to be interconnecting cables, power tracks that come into play, different things that other types of equipment disconnect, etc., where there's a lot of interconnection. Is this something that can also showcase those things?
So yes, so what you're seeing here, that's version 1.0. that we are currently finalizing, polishing. So it will be made available for everyone beginning of next year. But we already have lined up a couple of more improvements and functionalities that are part of the roadmap for next year. And what you're mentioning is exactly one capability. So what you maybe have realized that there are components like these conveyor belts here. And at the moment, they are considered separate, isolated parts as the other components of the system as well. But of course, they are a bit different. They are connected actually to other components. They make the connection between those. And actually, what you would really like to do, you would like to define the way along where those conveyor belts, cables, or tubes, or whatever kind of connection nodes you can think of, where they are going along the floor plan. And that's something that we have in our backlog to provide as a next improvement. So we will be able to define a path along which those connection nodes, like tubes, cables, conveyors, are going. And then you can take that information again as input for the configurator to say, okay, I now know this connection is 10 meters and it has, I don't know, 3 bends and stuff like that. And then you can adjust pricing and configuration based on that information. Another capability that is not part of the first release, but will be coming shortly after, is the possibility to export the layout plan that you have created here to make it available as input for downstream processes. So for example, when you are then adding or including engineering in your sales process, they can take that rough layout plan as input to get started with your detailed layout plan. Or you can provide that layout plan that you created as input for BIM processes or for architects to continue working with it. So we have a couple of things already identified that we are going to improve on with layout planning. So those have been a couple of examples to add context to the configuration, make it easier to grasp and understand what the product will actually look like and how it will fit into your environment. The last capability I like to talk about is deep CPQ integration. We also strongly believe that to leverage all the benefits that a visualization can bring to configuration, you can only get that if the visualization is deeply integrated into CPQ. So let's take a very simple example. So going back to EverCareTech, and let me save this configuration. So what you're typically doing when you have a visualization, you're also producing a couple of screenshots. So snapshots of that visualization, images that you can then utilize along the sales process. So you can add them as small preview images somewhere, or maybe you can stick them to your solution information, so people working with the solution get a better understanding. Okay, what is it that this solution currently consists of? Or another possibility is, of course, you can create proposals and add those images to them. So I have a proposal here, for example, and we added those images here as well. So that's basically straightforward. However, one issue that you have with a visualization that is only attached to the CPQ but not deeply integrated is that those screenshots can only be generated as long as the visualization in your configuration experience is running. Then you can generate those images, those screenshots, and save them and use them later on. But using the configuration dialog is not the only way to interact with the configurator and the whole opportunity that you're working on here. There are a bunch of APIs in the background that you can utilize to talk and work with the configurator without opening the configuration dialog. And triggering the generation of a proposal is also something that not necessarily a human needs to do. It can also be triggered by an API at any point in time. So what do you do if the configuration triggered by those API changes changed in a way that the visualization need to be adjusted, but you don't have your configuration dialog open? That means that every time you do that, you need to tell someone, some human, to open up the configuration dialog in order to create corresponding screenshots. With a deep integration like we provide a back-end service, a visualization service, where the proposal generation can always trigger that to generate up-to-date visualizations that are then put into proposal. So you know at that point in time when you generate the proposal, the images are updated and the correct ones without any human involvement. That's, for example, one case where deep integration comes in handy. Another example is, and now popping up my third standard demo for today, another company called Parker Lifts. They are selling elevators. And if we are now going to configure an elevator, so opening up the configuration dialog again, you can define a few things here. For example, how many floors this elevator should work on. And when you again go into the technical configuration, one part of the technical configuration is you need to configure the elements on this car operation panel here. So the configurator is telling you, okay, these are the components that should go there. And then the visualization can use capabilities like drag and drop to move things around on that panel. The actual positioning of those elements is something that the configurator is not really concerned about, doesn't adjust the pricing typically. And the visualization can already take care of that. I'm not able to stack things on top of each other. However, the configurator might change the configuration in a way that things can be stacked on top of each other. So for example, if I'm changing to a bigger button size, all of a sudden there's too less space available in the visualization. So I get geometrical conflicts. Geometrical conflicts are typically things that the configurator is not concerned about. They are concerned about logical conflicts. So the visualization can detect them, that's fine. But what now? And if you have a deeply integrated...
Could you expand on, sorry to interrupt, but could you expand on geometrical conflict versus logical conflict for the audience?
So a logical conflict is you are selecting options, or you like to select an option or an attribute value which is in conflict to another selection that you did. So maybe you need to change that selection, or you are fine and you need to choose a different selection. So the configuration logic that you have predefined is getting into a conflict, and in our case, our configurator is proposing a solution for that conflict. That's a conflict based on logical constraints. Geometrical conflicts are conflicts that happen in the visualization on a geometrical base, meaning that the available space is not enough to fit components at the positions they are currently located. So you need to make more space, you need to move them further away, and then you have enough space. And that's something that is currently happening here. There's not enough space. And with a deeply integrated visualization, you can actually send this information back to the configurator. So it's not only a one-way communication. Configurator is telling the visualization, display that. You can also send back information from the visualization to the configurator saying, hey, I have a position conflict now. Here are things that are now in conflict, and someone needs to take care of that. And if that attribute here is defined, for example, as a mandatory field that needs to be no conflict, then the configurator can actually saying, okay, before finishing up that configuration or continue with your configuration, you first need to solve those geometrical conflicts, and then you can continue. So for example, if I'm now starting to rearrange the things here on that panel, making a bit more space, then all of a sudden, all geometrical conflicts are solved. Information is sent back to the configurator. No conflict is happening, so you can continue with your configuration. So this bidirectional communication is something that also requires a more deeply integrated visualization. And the last example I have for today and for a deep CPQ integration is by letting me get back to my augmented reality session here. So as I told in the beginning, I'm using our Tacton CPQ AR app to create that augmented reality experience. And maybe some of you are wondering why using an app, because modern phones or smartphones can already do augmented reality out of the box without any app that you need to download or install. However, those appless experiences, they have one big drawback, and that is they are running in isolation. Meaning if you start your augmented reality experience, it's an isolated application. It runs, it displays the data, it gets provided, and then you can look at it and that's it. And then you can close it down again. Meaning if you are using this app during your configuration process, for every time you're doing a configuration change and you like to visualize that in augmented reality, you have to go through the whole process again. Create a QR code, and along that QR code, you need to create the 3D data that's going to be displayed. That can take up a few seconds. Then you are scanning that with your smartphone. Then the data gets downloaded to your smartphone. Then you're visualizing the product in reality, and then you have to place it again at the position you like to look at it. When you're now changing the configuration in the configurator, you need to go do that whole process again. With our app, we are actually establishing a live link between the augmented reality experience and the experience running in your browser. So every time you change the configuration in your browser, it's immediately and automatically updating in your augmented reality app as well. So you can truly use the augmented reality application along your configuration process without any hassle.
So if I'm a salesperson who's sitting on the factory floor and I have, maybe a product manager or somebody sitting with a customer at their corporate office, and you're trying to showcase how it might fit, you're able to do something like that while you're showing the configuration, and they can show the actual use case at the plant location using the AR app. Right?
Exactly. So you only need to provide that QR code, and then everyone with that app can just link into that configuration session. So you can hook up as many augmented reality applications as you want to the same configuration session, and then they can experience that. And you can actually take that even further. So instead of sharing that with an augmented reality experience, you can also share your configuration session with anyone in their browser. So for example, let me open up another browser that can be on any other machine, on anywhere, on any place on the world. And instead of now using the QR code, you are sharing a link, which you can now paste into your browser. And now we are establishing that same connection. And now you see the visualization that is connected to your configuration session. You can move around independently, but still, if the configuration is changing, you get those updates immediately. And again, you can sync as many as you want to. So you can actually, let me just make that here a little bit smaller. So everything works here in parallel.
So, wow. So you can have multiple audiences seeing the same thing across the globe.
So it can be a truly collaborative experience here, that the one who's driving the main configuration session can share that experience with anyone in multiple ways, and they can take part of that configuration session and provide input and feedback to it. And that is only possible if you have a deep CPQ integration of the visualization. That's actually a USP that we have. No one else is having that. They are all going to use for that appless approach for augmented reality, which has them benefits. Yes, I don't need to download the app, but once I have that app, the benefits that I get from that are so much more valuable in our way.
For sure.
And I mean, along those more technical benefits of a deep integration, you also, of course, get on top a few other benefits more on a business or project management level. So if it's the same vendor providing CPQ and the visualization, it's so much easier to deal with that. So you do not have two companies with multiple contact persons, multiple contracts you have to deal with, different responsibilities are divided, who's responsible for what when a bug happens. They most likely, those companies have different strategies and different strategies for their product. They have different setup workflows, so different platforms with different user management, with different data storage places. So it's much more convenient if you can deliver an integrated visualization experience with your CPQ.
Got it.
So those are the 4 capabilities that I think are very crucial if you want to leverage visualization at its best. So It should be an interactive 3D real-time visualization to really be best suited for high variance product configuration. The visualization should support all the channels that you like to use it in, the selling focused channels and the buying focused channels. The visualization should be capable to provide context, especially for unexperienced users that have not experienced the product they are configuring so far. And then it should be deeply integrated to really leverage all the benefits that you can get.
Cool.
And with that, handing back to you, SR.
Yeah, no, I have a couple of questions. I know we are
Sure.
Probably getting short on time here, so I may not go through all of them, but you covered a lot of different things, right? We touched upon different capabilities here, but even in that, we're talking about augmented reality as a separate piece that can really help the sales teams and customers, prospective customers who want to use visualization, really reimagine their sales. Right. And I was wondering, like, it all looks easy when you're setting something like this up, but how easy it is to implement visualization, right? Is there a lot of CAD automation and CAD integration involved? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. And of course, as always, the answer is it depends. So the actual integration of the visualization at runtime, so meaning bringing it into your configuration dialog or your configuration experience, if it's a self-service scenario in a web shop or whatsoever, that's pretty straightforward and easy. That's not an issue. First, it's important to know that since it's a 3D real-time technology we are using here, so it's 3D models that we need. Typically, we take CAD data as an input for our preparation journey. We are not using CAD data directly. It's not a CAD viewer that we have. It's a 3D real-time engine. So CAD data need to be converted to a different file format that can be used. And then I guess then it all depends. And let me just quickly go back to this slide here. It depends on what you like to achieve with the visualization. What is the goal that you're looking for? If you're going for more a CAD look and feel, then you do not have to do much with the visualization asset. So it's basically the CAD data, you convert them in a different file format, and then you're more or less good to go. If you are trying to achieve a more photorealistic look, then of course you need to think about more and work a bit more about the materials and lighting and shadowing. Maybe you like to put it into a specific environment. So that of course will increase the effort that you need to do. And what you need to do in any way is you need to connect your visualization to your configuration model, to your product model, so that if you change a configuration attribute in your configuration UI, that change is transferred to the visualization, and the visualization needs to know, what should I do? What should I do with that configuration change? Do I need to load a different model to hide something? Do I need to change a color or material? You need to specify that. So that's the visual logic that you need to create, and the complexity of that logic depends on the complexity of your product model. The more complex your product gets, and the more you possibilities you have to visualize that, the more you need to work on that visual logic. So it has a few settings where it depends on how complex everything gets. But I think the basic workflow is pretty similar. You take the CAD data that nowadays every company has CAD data of their product. You take them,
Right.
You convert them, and then you're connecting them to your product model. That's the basic workflow.
Okay. And with respect to the skill set that companies would want to have, or maybe Tacton can support with, what type of skills would be required to, if you wanted to do like high fidelity, images instead of the regular CAD image? What type of skills would?
Yeah. So I think the regular CAD look and feel, you do not need specific skills for that. So the consultant setting up the product model basically should be able to do that as well. Or maybe you're including someone from your engineering department who's already has ownership or access to the CAD data, and based on the knowledge that they have from their CAD systems, they know how to navigate in three-dimensional environments. So that fits quite nicely. When it comes to really working on making it photorealistic, then what we are typically including then in a project is a 3D artist, someone who knows an additional set of tools to create those high fidelity textures and materials, and knows it's the way around setting up lights, so putting products in place and present them. I mean, it's basically more a marketing related skill set then. So how do you like to present your product to your end customer? So then this perspective comes more into the project. But of course, that depends on where you like to go with the project.
Got it. Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing those key capabilities and really good insights. I think we've seen a wide variety of applications that you showcased, and also the opportunities for our prospects and customers and those who are looking at visualization as to how they can really reinvigorate their sales by applying this. So having said that, I just want to take it back the screen share here and just mention that, like, if you're interested further in exploring the visualization, I think Marco showed the live demo on our website. You can go ahead and check it out. Go to our website and play around with it. If you want to learn more about the capabilities and why visualization is key for industrial product sales, you can also check out our ebook that's available on our website. But if you feel like, hey, I am at that point and I would like to actually start exploring more, it is very case dependent, right? You would have your application and the type of resources you have to implement this. Please reach out to one of our experts by scheduling a call on our website and go to tacton.com, and everything should be available there. So thank you again for taking the time to join us. And once again, Marco, real insightful session. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.